we will gather regularly
Right.
and be carrying the same pain.
Right.
And none of us want to talk about it.
Right.
Because all it takes is one person to say, hey, bro, I've been struggling with my marriage because I can't ever get this right. And all the other men be like, bro, me too. It's gotta be them, right? No, bro, it's not them. It's not them. It's us. It's us. Let me tell you what I end up having to learn, because I had to address the same situation. And I'm sure we've been all thinking it's them. It's not them. It's us. But I think there's so much in when brothers can come together and say, hey, look, yeah, no, so this is a common thing amongst us. And so let's talk about it. Porn. It's a common thing amongst us that we have been just kind of like, woo, no, I ain't really a struggle, or infidelity. You know, listen, they got meetups, they got clubs for all of this stuff. You want to find a group that's doing it, you can find one, and nobody will say anything to you because we recognize that we're all kind of just doing it together. So it's our thing that we don't talk about, but let's just make it normal.
And the thing about it is, because men don't talk, they go around carrying the pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because they carry the pain and everything, we're walking around hurt people, and hurt people will hurt people.
Yeah. More importantly, hurt people. And I've been calling this out all month of June, that hurt people don't just hurt people, but they hurt themselves.
Right.
At the end of the day, more than anything.
Hello, welcome to God's Glory Men's Real Stories.
I'm so glad you've joined us today. And if this is your first time listening, thank you and welcome. We're honored to have you. And to all those regular listeners, you already know what it is. Can't thank you enough for riding with us. Just want you to know that this is a safe space for your story, for your struggles, for your healing. And no matter what that looks like, or no matter what your lives look like at this point, it all matters. You matter, and you're not alone. And most importantly, your story isn't over. I pray that our time together today speaks directly to where you are in your journey. So sit back, lean in, and join a community that genuinely cares about you. Our hopes is that you not only feel God's love, but also see God's glory in men's real stories. So before we dive in, I want you to go ahead, show me some love, and hit that thumbs up when it's down there in the corner. And if you're watching on YouTube, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to us on all channels. That way you'll never miss an episode. But also, don't keep this to yourself. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, or may be a part of your own community. We appreciate all your support, though, and it's not a coincidence that you're here, as God has a plan to speak through today's guests. So I want to thank all the men who have said yes to sharing what God has brought them through, like today's special guest, who has played a huge role as in just this podcast being published, in this podcast, in this space being created, and personally as well in my life, by walking with me through a lot of the choices I've had to make. Some of the ones where I wanted to sabotage different things with the struggles that I had been through, as well as helping me through the shameful past that I had to go and dig up in order to feel God's love, but more importantly, his love, whereas he began to encourage me and be that fatherly voice and presence that I needed in my life. And I could, the crazy thing is, I could go on and on about all the things that this guy has done and how he's been such a father to me and so many other men that he sits with at pivotal points in our stories, pointing us all to Christ. So I finally convinced him to come and share his story with all of you. Even though he's felt like he didn't really have anything to add to this podcast, I would tell you that was just a lie in itself. So I realize he's already doing so much just to keep this podcast going, with just continuing to speak into my life. So I'm excited to welcome Early Boykins, or as I call him, Pops, to the episode. What's going on, Pops?
Not much, thank you.
What'd you think about that green?
It was outstanding. I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, it's all true. It's true. It most of what has even happened here. I mean, think about it. If we go back to the day when I hit you up and I said, okay, so look, I'm thinking about like calling it God's Glory and Our Stories, and you were like, no. So before we even jump into that, why don't you introduce yourself to those who have never met Early Boykins?
Early Boykins, and I'm honored to be here. And I've been just so proud of Robert and everything and what's going on in the podcast and everything. And so I'm just honored to be here.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm truly honored that you get an opportunity to come and just sit in all that we have done together, all that we have talked about, the conversations where you were like, no, that's not it. No. See, I think that God is calling you into a space with men, and so not to say that women don't need a space, but how did you say it? What'd you say when I said, hey, well, I think they all need a space? You were,
Yeah, but men need their space for themselves, because most men don't have a position where we can speak to man.
yeah.
And so this right here is what, God is using for men to speak to men.
Yeah. And as you begin to share that to me, I was like, okay, he's got a point. And I got it. And more importantly, the way the name just kind of had a ring of just God's glory and men's real stories. It was just like, yeah, Pop, I think we got something here. I think that's it.
Yeah, because every man has a story.
For sure.
And everything. And so you have to listen to men and see they all have something to say, but they need their space to say it.
Yeah.
And so, when you have something like this where men can listen to men talk, it's like iron sharpening iron.
So tell me this, and since I've met you, you've always been on the iron sharpening iron part. Why is iron sharpening iron so important? Outside of the fact that it is in the Bible, it's biblical. How have you seen how important that is in your life and others' lives?
Well, most of the time, nobody gets to where they're at on their own. Everybody needs somebody to get to where they're at.
Yeah.
And I noticed, in the Bible, Jesus Christ was carrying the cross. And when he was carrying the cross, it got heavy for him. And they had somebody come along beside him and lift the cross up to help him along the way. So every man has their own cross that we all bear, but everybody needs help along the way.
Wow. Sheesh. I don't, okay, so you've told me that before. And I saw it so vividly in my head this time of the fact that every man literally has his cross to bear, especially as a Christian. We are bearing something.
Yes.
But carrying that cross at a certain point, all of us, it gets heavy to all of us. I mean, I would say that no matter what your age is, carrying our burdens, our cross, it becomes extremely heavy, no matter how much we've been, as we like to say, we've been conditioned to carry the weight of it all. Right. But I believe that it all gets very heavy. And so, as I sit here and think about that, I'm like, who comes alongside me to help me carry my cross when it gets too heavy?
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's heavy. That's powerful. I think the exciting thing about being able to hear your story today is that me and you, we've had plenty of talks. You shared stuff some stuff that we may talk about today, some stuff that we just gonna laugh at and keep in our head, because that's how you laugh. Like, yeah, we're not gonna cover everything, but no, we go. I because the story, we could talk for hours in that case. But I think the beauty of it is that before me and you met, you had a story that got you to the point where you were even in the position to meet me. And I think that is probably one of the most powerful stories, because I believe everybody has a story of even how, like, I've met different people on their walk and how I was positioned because of our interaction to be able to be in their path when they came along. And so I'd love to dive into that today.
Okay.
So I'm gonna let you take it. Where do you want to start? What chapter do you want to start in today?
Let's start at the beginning of me arriving here in Charlotte.
Okay, let's do it. Okay.
So I told my friends I was working in the Department of Corrections at San Quentin that I was moving to Charlotte, and everybody asked me why. I said I couldn't tell them. I didn't know why. And my father asked me, to move, where I'm originally from, Wichita, Kansas. And I told him, no, God is sending me to Charlotte, and I don't know why. And so I came here with my wife, being married 41 years with my wife and everything. And she just agreed to go with me wherever I was called to go. That was a blessing itself.
Yeah.
And so we packed up and we came here. And while I was here, being retired, I went to church. And I was at church and I saw a guy with a 10-gallon hat at Elevation Church. And I said, hey, man, who are you?
Okay, hold on. What is a 10-gallon hat?
A cowboy hat.
Like I'm sitting here like, what the heck is a 10-gallon hat?
Yeah, the cowboy hat. One of them big old cowboy hats.
Okay.
Like a 10-gallon hat. I call it
Okay.
10-gallon hat.
Is that what they call them, Justin?
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I've heard that 10-gallon before.
Yeah, that's maybe a little old school for you, but yeah. So he had this big old cowboy hat on. And so I was like, man, who are you? He told me his name was Chris Guffey, and he was trying to start this place called Ground 40. He said, why don't you come check it out? So I said, okay, sure. I'm retired. I got nothing but time. So I came and checked it out. And so he said, come back tomorrow. I want to show you something. Now, at this particular point in time, going there, it was a lot of guys who were getting out of prison and jail, and it was a drug rehab facility that he was trying to establish. And so I was like, okay. So I came back the second time around, and so he told me, he says, look here, I want to show you something. He started telling me his dreams and his vision for the place, and I said, okay, I could see that. He said, good, I need you to teach. And I said, oh no. I've been around these guys for 26 years at San Quentin, and I don't want to be around these guys, because like Moses tried to get people to go to the promised land and everything, and he had such a hard time, and because of them, he didn't get to go.
Wait, hold on. Wait, do you feel like these? Okay, so we're gonna have to back it up a little bit because for those who don't know, before you came to Charlotte, what were you doing? Because before you came to Charlotte, you were in California, right?
Yes, I was.
And what were you doing in California?
I was an officer at San Quentin for 26 years, and I've been trying to help guys out and talk to guys, all those 26 years, and they weren't listening.
So you basically what you're saying is that if it was left up to you leading those prisoners to the promised land, none of y'all were going to the promised land.
Not by my lead.
Okay.
I had tried.
Right.
And so what I noticed was he said to me, he said, Moses didn't get to go to the promised land. He said, but he got to go to heaven, which is better. I said, heaven. He said, well, maybe you need to come here. So I said, maybe I do. Now, at that particular point in time in my life, I had got hit by a car while I was working at San Quentin. And so I was in a real painful spot in my life where I was really in a lot of pain from the surgeries because they had to put rods and screws in my back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was upset with God because my dad had surgery on his back, and I had the same identical scar in my back in the same place that my dad had. And I felt it was like a generational curse. And so I was angry with God also. And so I was like, if I have to go to this place to meet you, I'm willing to do it.
So is it fair to say that you could tell that God was there at this place already, and you felt called to go there, even if it wasn't for teaching, but if nothing else, to say, okay, I'm going to pull up on God. If God's here, then that's where I need to be.
Exactly. And I felt like, I'm going to meet him where he was at.
Yeah.
And so I went there. And my mom was telling me, don't you go there. you know, because you don't know these people and they getting out of prison and jail and everything. And she said, you know, they can hurt you. I said, Mom, I've been doing 26 years in prison. So, you know, so I wasn't scared and nothing like that. And so I went. And while I was there, that's when I had my encounter with God.
Mm.
And that's when he told me, he says, Early, you was trying to save those guys at San Quentin. You couldn't save them. I'm the only one who saved.
Mm.
And then he told me, he says, I'm the only one who could be their savior. And then he told me, I'm the only one can give them salvation.
Mm. Okay. So what, I'm just curious because I sit here and think about that. What did that say to you? Like hearing that it was never your job to save them and it was his job. I mean, like, what did that say to you?
He said to me, he said, you just be a farmer. You just give them my word. My word is like seed.
Mm.
He said, let me be the dirt and do the work.
Sheesh. Come on. You be the dirt and do the work.
Yeah, that's what he said. And I had no problems. He said I would never feel a day like I was at work. And I never felt a day. I've been out there since 2017 to this present time, giving out the word. And I never felt more at home than I'd have at Ground 40.
Sheesh. Okay, so I'm guessing based on what you're saying, Ground 40 was not in your cards. It was not what you were planning to do, but it was what God was calling you to Charlotte to do.
Right. You know, he says, you know, men have a plan, but God has a purpose.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that because in my plans, I wasn't going to do anything good with my plans because I was retired. I was thinking about kicking back, hanging out with the fellas.
Come on, tell us about Tell us about them plans. You know what I'm saying? Just so we can laugh a little bit. Let's talk about them plans because hey, look, he acting like we don't kick back and do that. Now I think God let you sprinkle a little bit of that on his plan because he was like, oh, don't worry, you gonna kick back and chill with the fellas. It may not look the way you think it's going to look, but there's going to be some kicking back. There's going to be some chilling with the fellas. It's just that it's not going to be your message. It's not going to be your word. It's not going to be your truth.
Exactly. So what I did was, instead of doing the things I was planning on thinking I was going to do in California, he had me spend time with the men at Ground 40. I talked to each one-on-one. Each guy who comes through the program. So therefore, what I had planned to kick it with the fellas, I'm kicking it with the men of God, who God is using me to do what his purpose is.
Right. Well, okay, so let me throw this in there. So the way you're describing it is probably exactly how me and you met. And even though I didn't meet you at Ground 40, I met you on a mountaintop. The way we interacted, if I remember coming home and I told my wife, I said, man, listen, after my encounter with this guy named Early, I know he probably don't know this, but he just adopted me. He's my daddy now. Like he just became my daddy because it felt like in our conversation, it felt like the conversation that every son wants to have with his dad in different ages of his life, where he can come and say, all right, I'm 7. Dad, I might have messed up. I might have tried to see if my G.I. Joe man could swim, and I flushed him down the toilet, and he's now stuck in the toilet, and water's coming out, Dad. and literally, I brought you you asked me, like, oh, what brought you here? And it was literally like moments of me sharing how bad I had messed it up, and that 7-year-old hearing like, I know he's going to be mad at me. I know he's going to be mad at me. But you changing the perspective of what you expect from a father and what you get from a father. And so I think you change my opinion of how our Heavenly Father addresses us. And when you've been around or watched or seen fathers outside of sitcoms address their kids from a place of anger, or you address them like, man, you a mess up. You always messing up. And what I can't keep nothing around here unfixed because y'all breaking stuff. You start to believe that you almost got to shield yourself every time you mess up. And you, instead of coming to your father with your mess ups, you rather just hide it and just act like it didn't happen. And I think you showed me a difference at that time in my life where it was like, all right, I'm expecting this guy to be like, yeah, you messed it up bad, big time, bro. Like, listen here, like, I don't know how you gonna dig yourself out of that when you done messed up quite a bit of times. But it was almost like you reversed it on me and just showed me something that I had never experienced, which I'm sure you probably show to a lot of men in moments of vulnerability when they're sharing, if they feel comfortable, their most shameful past.
Right. Well, most of what I learned was my father was a great father, but he wasn't around because my mom and dad got a divorce. And so what I learned was the things that he didn't do, I didn't understand it because he had his back surgery and I didn't understand it at that time and everything. He never played ball with me, never played catch with me. He never did those things with me. And so I learned to be the opposite. What I said, but the opposite I have 2 sons. And with my sons, I learned how to play. I played catch with them. I spent time with them. I talk with them. I walk with them. And so I had experiences with them to help me along the way and everything, to be the opposite of what my father would be.
Mm.
And so because he didn't have a father, because his father had passed away when he was like 12 years old. So I had to learn how to forgive him and learn to love him from the aspect of where he came from to the point where I was at, where I said I can be responsible for my actions.
Yeah.
And so I learned to love on men and meet them where they're at.
Yeah. Okay. So, and as I sit here and I think about that, it made me think about something I was even going to ask my son. So, son, do you feel like even in our encounters or encounters you've had maybe with the friends that you've had, do you feel like dads are in a position where they can meet you guys with your mistakes, your mess up, the things that you guys like? Has it always felt that way even for you?
So were you talking about like even when I was younger, like if I would do something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was one time you picked me up from school and I had done something bad and I was like, Dad, I got a yellow card. So you know how red get. I was like, yeah, Dad, I got yellow. And then you weren't mad at me or nothing. That you were just like, all right, so what did you do? And so that, like, so I do know from my experience that if I did something wrong, you weren't really mad at me. You were just more mad at the situation. You were more mad at like how it came to be, I guess. So you weren't really mad at me.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. And I think that I'll be honest. Back then, when I used to pick you up from that school where you had the color system, I think a lot of times the truth is that I can look back on that and say that I didn't really know what a father or how a father was really supposed to react to those situations.
Right.
Was I supposed to get angry? I do remember how my mom raised me, and I remember thinking, okay, well, the one thing I don't want to do at him, I don't want to yell right now.
Right.
I don't want to get mad and start yelling. I do know that. But I also recognize that I didn't know the right response and everything and how to like address it so that going forward, it wouldn't be a thing. I knew I didn't want him to like always hide things from me, but I didn't know how to address it to where he understood that that's not like something we don't want to continue to do. So I just kind of felt unequipped for the position.
Right. I think, as a father, we have a position where we learn along the way, and there's no perfect father except our Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
So, we do the best we can, but we know that we do have accountability to our Heavenly Father on how we raise our kids.
Yeah. And so me, you've talked about this plenty in the past of like how I never took on the example of our Heavenly Father when I was initially being an early dad, when I was raising Justin at an early age, when Madison came. I took on knowing that I didn't want to be anything. I didn't want to take on some of the traits of my parents.
Right.
And so I figured if I could just not be them as much, then I would be the cool dad. I would be the dad that they would be like, okay, well, yeah, no, my dad's great and he's not hard. And but I realized that, okay, well, I can't be their best friend either, because if I'm their best friend and they're gonna run slap over me.
Right.
And so it was like trying to fine tune. It was like driving a stick shift car, of like trying to find that happy medium where I could be a responsible parent and also be somebody they could come to and confide to and all. And I recognized that no matter how much I wanted to do that, I kept seeing moments of my mom in me where I would get upset. And when I got upset, well, what did I do, son?
You would probably spank me.
Well, yeah, I did that, but I feel like there were a lot of moments where I resorted to just yell.
Yeah, you would yell at me. I remember, actually, should I tell him like what happened? I remember one time I was doing flag football, and I was dropping the ball like crazy times, and you like yelled at me because you were mad at me. You were like, just like, keep your eyes on the ball. Now you didn't say it like that.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy how I resorted to doing what I had always seen. And it's not something that, of course, you are proud of, but when you see enough parents yelling, you become that yelling parent.
Right. And the thing about it is, as a parent, like I said, there's none perfect and everything, but you want to always encourage them and say words are powerful. Because they remember those words coming up. And so I made sure that I use words of positive things that will build them up and everything. Now because I was in the military also, I had a lot of discipline about me. And being that I was, raising my kids pretty much didn't have a village around me or anything. So I was a little hard on them and everything, but I was also trying to be fair and try to love on them also. So I gave them a little salt and a little bit of sugar.
A little bit of salt. So wait, what is giving them a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar look like?
Well, here's my philosophy was, you may hate me now, but you'll love me later. And that's the part that was a little salty and a little bit sugar.
Okay.
Because the things that I told my sons, I said, if you give me 3 years of doing this and look at the results of it and everything, and then take a look at your friends and see where they are 3 years from now, and just give me those 3 and let's look at it. And the thing about it was my son took a look at those 3 years and he realized by doing the things that we talked about and everything, he seen the results of it and everything. And so he was proud of where he had come from to where he was at.
Yeah.
So, he did a lot of things like me, and so, so the fruit don't fall too far off the tree.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're going to cover those things today. Yeah. We're going to talk about them. Yeah. We're going to talk about those things. He actually called me and was like, make sure he tells you about all them things. Yeah. I want him to unpack all of that on the show.
All those things that I did growing up as a kid, and the thing my dad told me, he said, you must have forgot. I forgot what? You remember when you did that? You did this and you did that? And I was like, oh, yeah. And so he showed me by talking to me about some of the things I did, it showed me to have a little bit more grace for my kids.
For sure. For sure. Hey, listen, right there, that in itself is a whole lesson that, man, listen, we could take a whole sidebar and be like, you hear what he just said? You know what I'm saying? Like grace is given to those who have been through the stuff you've been through. And it's so funny how sometimes I think about, like, in the church, how, like, it's a hospital. It's a hospital that everybody came in at one point or another. But there are some of us who have gotten so mended up, and we are so well, and we are so have forgotten that we came there one time too. Message. But message. But yeah, no, I think that is good, because I recognize that you're right. There are moments where I look back and I'm like, I wish my mom had given me grace in those moments where I messed up, and I needed grace to say, hey, look, yeah, you fell short. You might have missed the mark, and it's okay, because the truth is I ask my son all the time, what outside of, hey, how was your day? What is something that I begin to ask y'all, like at the end of the week, or I ask you at any given day, of what was something you did that day, and what is that one thing I ask you about?
No, usually you'll be like, well, what was the best part of your day? Or something like that, right?
Yeah, I ask you I do ask you what was the best part of your day, but I also ask you what was one way you failed this week.
Oh yeah, you do that.
Or what is something you failed at this week? Now, why is it that I ask you that?
Well, why do you ask it? Why do you ask?
Unbelievable.
No.
Okay.
Well, why do you ask?
No. Okay. So the reason why I ask you what is something you failed at this week is because I have realized that we are in a world right now where people are scared to fail.
Right.
People don't want to fail. People believe that failure takes you to the back of the line, and it keeps you from success. I tend to believe that the more times I fail,
Right.
the closer I get to success. But the
Right.
truth is if I'm scared to fail, I'll never succeed.
Right.
And so I like to ask them, Harley knows it too, that I like to say, hey, what did you fail at this week? Because I recognize that when it comes to her, Harley, for example, when it comes to her in swimming,
Right.
she has bad days out there in that pool where she's like, I failed at this. I didn't do a great job at this. But I recognize that the whole plan is for her to get better. She's doing that so she can check that off and say, I have succeeded at this.
Right.
But if she thought that she was going to get it on the first try, I blame all of those who have said, oh yeah, I wanted to do something and I did it.
Right.
And so you're hearing them, I wanted to do something and I did it. And you're looking at the end success and you're like, wow. But what they fail to tell you is that, and when I wanted to do it, I started off and I failed. And then I got ahead and I got further and I failed. And I kept failing in the process of succeeding. It normally looks like a short, sweet story of, I wanted to do it. I got up, I gritted out, I hustled it out, and I did it.
Right.
But grit and hustle, all it is a code word for I went really hard and I got knocked down on my butt.
Right.
And that was failure to some. So I just left that out. But failure comes at the expense of you going to do something that you want to accomplish. So I asked them, what did you fail at this week? Because it lets me know what they're trying to succeed at.
Right. Right.
I want to say, I think failure for me is that I've never gotten good at something unless I mess up at it. Because I think messing up teaches you like what not to do, I guess. Or I feel like for me, when I fail, it helps me grow and it helps me like understand that, like, okay, so if you don't do this, you can do this. It gives you more options. Gives you better understanding of the thing. Because I feel like if you do something the first try, then you don't understand it fully. Because you have to like really get into it and mess up, and then find that one.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. For sure. Yeah. I mean, you're literally hitting on, and I think that's the beauty of like some people. Like, for instance, I enjoy watching the story of what's your guy who's trying to send spaceships up to
I can't think of his
Musk.
Yeah,
Almost.
right.
Yes. Yeah. Now, in what he's trying to accomplish, we saw that he accomplished creating a really great electric car.
Right.
But now we are getting a front row seat to watching him try to send a spaceship up to space. And what do we get to experience? What do we get to experience? And what have you seen out of it?
They blow up every single time. Well, from what I've seen, they all blow up.
Yeah. They continue to blow up.
Right.
They continue to explode.
Right.
And I think what that shows people is that even the most successful, even the richest, go through failures to succeed, because there will be a day where we will watch one of his spaceships make it into space, right, and we will forget about all the times in which it blew up unless we really sit back and be like, okay, so in 2025, he lost this many space shuttles trying to succeed.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of a father offering, a mother offering grace in those moments where we fall short. Right. Recognizing that those failed attempts at how we were supposed to act, at how we should have shown up, were all opportunities for us to get it right, all opportunities for us to be corrected and almost like put back on the right path of like, okay, so wait a minute, before I just tell you to go on or go back to your room and yell at you, let me kind of like reposition you. Let me align you back to the goal at which you're trying to hit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like, sometimes when my sons, had done some mistakes in life, instead of me, being salty, I gave them sugar and everything. And those things right there, they will remember for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And then, one of the things, my son has a ability to do is quote me.
Oh, he does.
He quotes me and he tell me, he say, well, you the one who said. And then what am I to say besides, okay, you're right. I did say that, back then.
Yeah. Yep. And what you should say is, I'm growing up too, okay? All right, so we all learning. This is a lesson for you and me. I got to be careful what I say, and you got to be careful how you take it, because what I meant to say.
But the thing about it is, the beauty of it all is, like I tell my son, I said, hey, the mistakes I made as a parent, someday when you have your kids and everything, you don't make the same mistakes that I made. You be a better parent than what I was.
Ooh. Okay. So wait a minute. Hold on, Pop. But that would mean that you would have to admit to your mistakes, whether it be through an apology or just the accountability to say, hey, look, I made a mistake. And I would say, and I'm not, directing this at anybody, but I would say that I have always seen that if parents admit to their mistakes, or and I'm not saying I am seeing a change in this. I'm seeing a turn and a change of tidiness. But a lot of parents from your generation, it was almost like, if I admit to my mistake, then how does that make me look as a parent? And that makes me like what if they begin to question my authority as a parent if I am making mistakes myself that I am having to ask for forgiveness for or having to apologize for?
Right. Main thing is, I just try to be a good example for them.
Yeah.
And help them, by that. And just like I said, there's none perfect.
Yeah.
And everything. And I tell them I have some shortcomings, some downfalls and everything. That's why I tell them, encourage them to be better than me.
Yeah.
I never encourage them to pursue the same goals and dreams I had, because they have their individuals. They have their own goals and dreams. I just encourage them.
Yeah. No, that's good. And okay, so can we unpack something today real quick though?
Uh-huh.
I want to sit on that. Be better than me. I know I've said that too. I know I've said that before to you guys, right? In your head, seeing as though you're the youngest in the room, what does be better than me look like?
When I was younger, you told me that, I really thought, when you first told me that, I really just thought it was just make more money than you and have like a better life than you. That's what I really thought it was. Now, when you tell me better than you, I kind of honestly, I don't think I want to be better than you, but I think I want to be almost as good as you, because I mean, for me, you're a role model to me. Like, I look up to you and stuff like that. Now, is it good to be better than you? Yeah, but also at the same time, I don't think I'm trying to be better than anybody. I think I'm just trying to be me and trying to be the better me instead of being better than someone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get it. And I guess, okay, so my thing is and I like the way he answered that, because the truth is that he doesn't know what better than me looks like.
Right.
Like, be better than me. Well, what does that look like?
Yeah,
I've only seen what you've offered. So what does better than me look like? And I feel like here's a perfect example. I learned how to be a better father than the father I had from Bill Cosby.
Okay.
I assumed that was better. Like, I watched how he parented his kids. I was like, okay, all right, I want to do that. I want to have a little sit downs on the beds. I want to correct them. I want to let their mama get involved, and I sit there and shut up and just sit back and be like, mama's in charge now. She's in. I want to parent like that. And that looked better than what I saw as a role model from a father figure. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
I guess that would have been better. But me just telling my son to be better than me, I felt like that gave him no type of compass. Almost like, where do they shoot at? You get what I'm saying?
Right. Well, the main thing is when I gave him examples and stuff, like I said, I'm a little crazy than most.
They don't know that. They don't have to know that. They don't have to know you like we know you.
So I gave my son, for one time for Christmas, I gave him some rocks.
He gave him some rocks.
And they were 12. In the box, it was 24 rocks. 12.
Wait, was it a rock collection?
It was a rock collection.
Okay.
And so in this rock collection, it showed the original form of how the rock looked, and then it showed a polished one, how it looked. I said, this is how the world see you, as this form, but I see you as this polished rock. And I know how you shine and how you glitter and everything. So that means you got to put in some work, son, in order for you to be like this. You just can't be like this way. It comes with a little work for you to be this way. And so I gave him that rock collection and everything. At that particular time, he was, like in the 5th grade, 4th grade, but he loved collecting rocks. And so I gave him that rock collection and stuff.
Right.
I don't know why we were sitting over here thinking you gave him like some coal.
So yeah, some coal. Yeah, I thought he was talking about rocks from like the backyard or something like that.
I was about to be like,
I gave him stuff, to build on, give him examples and stuff of how the world see you and then how I see you and everything.
Right.
And everything. And so he kept those rocks, for a while. I don't know if he still got them, but that was something that he could remember and everything.
Yeah, no, my dad's the same. You remember when we went to the outpost and you told me to bring take a rock to remember? What's up with that? Like, what's up with rocks?
Okay, so in that example is a little bit different than Early's example. So the rocks he gave his son was because he was a collector of stones and rocks, and he was giving them for an example. But in the case of the outpost, so biblically, and I've felt like we've covered this story before. So here's an example. Story of Joshua when they were crossing the Jordan. They could have crossed the Jordan. God could have opened up the Jordan for them to cross through on dry land, and they could have walked through and remembered it in their head and said, yeah, we remember that God opened up the Jordan for us to cross through, right?
Right.
But instead, what they were called to do, each tribe was to take a stone from the center. Now, think about it. You have seen stones from the edge of most creeks, the edge of most water beds. They're little small stones, right? Stones you can skip. But if that lake, river, ocean were to open up or to empty, you would find huge stones in the center of the water.
Right.
A lot bigger than the ones you cross with, or you can pick up and put in your pocket. And so God wanted them to take a stone from the center to be a moment to remind them as well as anybody else that came back through that way of what God did that day. And so whenever we go to the outpost or go anywhere for that matter, and we experience God in a whole new way, we experience what he's doing in our life and what he's doing in other people's lives. How do you want to remember that moment? How do you want to walk away from that and be able to carry something or take something with us that reminds us of that moment? And so I have brought back a stone every time, or Ebenezer, to remind me every time of what God does in every season, every time we go up there. And so, as I told you, I was like, bring back a stone or bring back something that every time you look over on that shelf or you look at that rock, you remember what God did on that mountaintop, what God did at that lake, what God did wherever it may have been.
Right. And I taught on the stones before too, the 12 stones of heaven and the different ones. And I also taught about build your house up on the rock.
Yeah.
And I was telling the guys at Ground 40 one time, I taught about building your house up on the rock. And I told them to find them a rock to remind them of this story and to remind them of being there at this drug and alcohol rehab called Ground 40. And here they are. This young man carried this stone from that lesson to opening up his own company. And he has that stone to remind him of where he come from to where he's at.
That's good.
Yeah. So I think what it is, and it doesn't have to be a stone. It could be a leaf. It could be a book. It could be anything that reminds you of. I call it the reference point or the bookmark to what God's doing in your life. And you know what? It just came to me. I think God had them do that because he recognized how forgetful the Israelites and we are.
Right.
He recognized that he could do a miraculous miracle and we could turn around and forget when we're going through storms.
Right.
And I think the beauty of carrying something, taking something, and having a bookmark to remember what God did in your life is awesome, because what happens is when you're sitting there in a new storm,
right,
you can look over on that shelf and see that rock and be like, you know what? That is right. 5 years ago,
right,
when I collected that rock, when I received that rock, when I found that rock, I was going through a similar storm and God saw me through it.
Right.
God opened up the water.
Right.
God carved a path for me in what looked like mud and quicksand that I would just go down in.
Right.
And I think it's a great memory to say, that is right. I do got a bookmark from when God did it before.
Right.
Why won't he do it again?
Right.
And so that's why I'm as you see, I keep moments up on my shelf. I keep other things. I mean, let's be real. To me, you're an Ebenezer of my life, because I can look back and say, wow, I remember when my son went through moments in his life where we had just kind of given up and we just didn't think that he was ever going to come out of that the same. We didn't think that he was going to make anything of himself or whatever. But God got the final say. God saw him through it. God was there even when we couldn't do anything else. And so I think there's power to that. I know there's power to that, and that what God does and how he wants us to remember those moments is I think about it every time and I'm like, if God is asking me to pick up a rock or he's put something in front of me, that means that there is a storm off in the distance that he wants me to hold tight to that reference point. He wants me to hold tight to that memory and that moment of what he did in my life and what he's doing right now, because the storm ahead of me is going to try to shock me and try to make me forget that God actually did this.
Right.
So, yeah, no, I think it's powerful when we have these moments where we pick up these things and say, this is my new Ebenezer.
Right.
This is my Manasseh.
Right. And the thing about it is, when I teach my sons and stuff and I talk to them, man, I try to tell them about the 5 P's.
Oh, this is going to be good. Yeah, go ahead.
The
What's
Bible,
5 P's?
every man should have a plan to provide and protect his family so God could prosper him for his purpose. The total existence of a man is one thing, purpose. And everybody saying, hey, what's my purpose here? What's my purpose? Your purpose is to love and to serve and to love. That's our total existence as a man. It's those things, to love and to serve. That's your purpose in life. Serve your community, serve your brother, serve your family, serve your community, throughout the community and throughout the world and everything. Because that's what Jesus did. He came and gave us the example. He was the blueprint of that. And so if we live by the blueprint, then we'll be able to make it through this journey we have in this world we have today called life.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I think, I love how men start to realize that they have a purpose bigger than what they have maybe seen.
Right.
And I love when men say, okay, my purpose for a long time was to get money and to be successful and to be famous and to own a lot of stuff. And they realize that that was never their purpose.
Right.
And they begin to align with their true purpose. But I don't know. I can't speak for everybody else. I used to think I was weird when I used to sit up at night and be like, well, what's my real purpose here? What am I really supposed to be doing? I see all these options, but what am I really supposed to be doing?
Right. And the thing about it is, we all wonder what we're supposed to be doing and everything. And like I said, he gave us the blueprint. Jesus Christ did.
Yeah.
He said, he says, this is my commandment, that you love one another.
Yeah.
And that was one of his commandments, for us to love. And so why would that be such a hard thing to do? He has to give us a commandment.
'Cause he knew.
He
knew that you was going to be blowing at me at the light when the light just turned green, and it was going to be really hard for me to love you after that. It was going to be really hard for me to love you after you giving me a spanking. It's going to be really hard for me to love you after you disrespected me. He knew that when sin entered the world, bro, you're going to need to hold tight to this love, because, man, they're going to try to steal your love and your joy.
Right.
They're going to try to take your peace and everything else. They're going to take all 5 of your P's if they can, bro.
Yeah.
That. I think that is, at the end of the day, I think that's why loving the neighbors you actually like is a lot easier than loving the neighbors that we don't like.
Right. And everything. But the thing about it is, when you say peace, joy, those are all things that God gives to us.
Yeah.
And he gives us this love. And even though it is hard to love your neighbor to the side of you that's hard to love, but you still got to show a little love and a little compassion towards them.
Yeah.
Because that's what he gave us. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm an old school guy now.
Here come on, bring it.
Turn the other cheek and everything. But I'm just saying that, you like I said, you can catch a lot more flies with sugar than you can with salt.
Yeah, basically what he's saying to y'all is that he a good mixture of Malcolm and he a good mixture of Martin. He a little bit of him. Don't try him. He might be Martin today, but don't think he won't sprinkle in a little bit of Malcolm and be on your throat tomorrow. But hey there, before we continue on with today's episode of God's Glory and Men's Real Stories, we want to take a moment to share something special with you. Our new sponsor, Confined Space Coffee. Are you looking for a coffee that fuels your heart and uplifts your spirits? Well, look no further. Confined Space Coffee isn't just your average brew. It's a handcrafted blend designed for those who seek connection, inspiration, and a good coffee to sip while sharing stories. It's made from the finest beans sourced from around the world, where every cup is a testament to hard work and dedication. Perfect for you, our listeners, who appreciate the beauty in every step of the journey. At Confined Space Coffee, they believe that great conversation and deep connections often happen over a warm cup of coffee. Whether you're getting ready for a long day or winding down and listening to a powerful conversation on our podcast, their coffee is there to accompany you. So here's the best part as a special offer to our listening community. You can use the code GLORY, capital GLORY, at checkout to receive 10% off your first order. That's right, experience the vibrant flavors and rich stories waiting for you in every sip. So why not brew some Confined Space coffee today? Gather around the table, share your own stories, and let the warmth of great coffee bring you closer to those you love. Remember, brewing coffee is an art, and at Confined Space Coffee, they're dedicated to making every cup a masterpiece, while bringing attention to the dark, confined spaces we find ourselves in that bring us closer to God. Now, let's get back to today's episode. Remember, whether it's sharing God's glory or exploring men's real stories, great coffee makes everything better. Thanks again for tuning in.
That's what he's trying to tell you right now.
Well, I'm a little old school. I used to lay hands on people, but I lay hands on them a different way now.
Kind of hands you was laying? You was laying hands with prayer? You were kind of how you was laying hands on people?
I was laying hands the wrong way, but the thing about it was, as time went on and everything, as God, knocked me off my horse and everything. Every man has a horse that he rides on and everything. And, like on the road to Damascus.
Yeah.
I was on my road, on my high horse, riding to Damascus, and he knocked me off.
Yeah.
He knocked me off my horse. And the name of the street that Paul was traveling on back then?
What was it?
Called Straight Street. So here he is, he knocked off his horse and he put him on Straight Street.
Straight Street?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Where'd you get that from?
It's right there in the Word. It's right there in the Word.
They proof checking you right now. Right now, they run through the way.
Hey, go through it, man. I was cracking up.
Talking about Straight Street.
I said, see, our Father got a sense of humor. He's got a sense of humor.
Oh, he definitely does.
Yeah, and he knocked him out and put him on Straight Street. And then when he put him on Straight Street and everything, he turned around and he dusted him off. This man had got on his knees and fasted for 3 days. Mm-hmm. And then when he came off his fast, he recognized our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And Jesus said to him, I'm going to use you as an instrument. He used Paul as a mighty man, as an instrument. He played him.
Yeah.
He played him. Out of all the people in the Bible, you see Paul being played the most.
Well, he definitely, you're right. He definitely got used plenty. I mean, God used him to write many books, but I'm still stuck on the horse thing. Right. And I'm sitting over here and I'm thinking to myself, but Justin don't have a horse though. I personally had a stable of horses.
Right.
Like I had a black horse, I had a blue horse, I had my little day-to-day driver horse, I had these little motorcycle horses. I had a bunch of horses. Justin ain't got a horse, you know what I'm saying? He ain't got a horse to be knocked off. Yeah, Justin. You ain't got no horse, Justin.
It's an old saying, you gonna knock you off your horse and everything.
No, what he's saying is you ain't got no car yet. You ain't got no horse. You can't be knocked off yet. Like that's what I took from that. Hey, listen. I got knocked off my horses so bad, I don't even want them horses no more. I've been trying to get rid of them horses.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Once you get knocked off your horse and everything, you be wanting to get rid of them and everything.
For sure.
Because you get dusty when you get knocked off.
Either that or you don't trust that horse no more. He ain't going to throw me off.
That's right. That's right. And those are the things that we walk through as men in life and young men in life. We get thrown. We fall sometimes, but we have to get back up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's how you get back up when you fall. The thing about it is when you fall, you look down, but when you get up, you got to look up, and that's where your help come from. Everything when you look up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would definitely, I love your analogy of like when you fall, you look down, because I think that
keeping your gaze down, looking down when you fall is what keeps you down, because you're focused on where you've gone down at. You're focused on where you lay. I think that it's not until you look back up, because the only reason you would look back up is to get back up. Right. The only reason you would look back up is to see how far you've fallen. The only reason you would look back up is to see who's willing to pull you out. And there's so much power in realizing that where you've fallen, where you lay, you could stay there. And a lot of people do. A lot of people don't feel like they could get back up from that. But I think when you look back up and realize that there is a Heavenly Father, you have a God who wants to bring you back into his arms, right? Not back into the prestige you had before, not back into the positions but he wants to use you in a whole new way. I mean, I think even when it comes down to think about it, what if Moses had thought that God was taking him back to Egypt to actually dethrone Pharaoh and be Pharaoh? What if he thought that he was going to take him back and put him back in a palace? And God's plan the whole time was to take his people out of that area. Now I'm not trying to change the Bible, so I'm not doing that. I don't want anybody to call me. I don't blasphemy. No. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of times we think that when we give our life to Christ, that God has a plan to bring us to these heights, to these positions, to these titles. And I think a lot of times, many times, we experience that God has a whole completely different plan of humility, where we are humbled now to be in a serving position, to be able to do what God wants to do, instead of a overseeing position where we are looking down on people, because he never wanted us to look back down again. He wanted us to keep our heads up.
Right. One of the things I was laughing at about my sense of humor with God was when I came one day out of the house in Ground 40, I was looking around. There was a cow pasture, and then across the field was a pig pen. Next to the place where I was teaching at was a chicken coop and everything. And I was like, man, my friends see me now at Ground 40. They think I'm crazy. And he said, I was born in the manger in the barn with all these animals and stuff. What do you think they thought about me? Yeah, I'm like, I come from the city. I ain't been out, from no country and everything. But the thing about it was he was using me for his purpose.
Yeah.
And everything. He said, get your eyes off yourself and start helping others.
Yeah.
And once I got my eyes off myself and started helping others, I got better. My healing started coming in my back. Things got better for me and everything when I started helping others. And that's one of the things that was great about where I was teaching at. It was more of a discipleship thing, where we're walking alongside each other, encouraging each other, building each other, helping each other to get to where we wanted to get in life.
Okay, so break down discipleship for people who are listening, who are wanting to know what that looks like, or wanting to do that, because I think that is so powerful, because a lot of people think they know what a discipleship looks like, or believe. What is discipleship, Pop?
For us, to me, is Christ-like, walking along with someone else that you are teaching to be Christ-like.
Yeah.
That's the discipleship program to me.
Yeah.
That's what a disciple looks like to me.
Yeah. And so in your perspective, how do they learn to be more like Christ? Like, how do they experience that?
Take the word and apply it daily.
Yeah.
And everything. And when you apply the word daily and you encourage each other daily, you get better.
Yeah.
You do better, you get better.
Yeah.
And everything. But you have to stay together in that word. And everything. Many people succeed in the program when they stay in the word.
Okay.
But when they turn and get across the track and they say, I got this, and they get on there by themselves, that's the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
He works you by yourself. But when you get among with other men, iron sharpening iron, you do better.
Yeah.
You get better.
Yeah. Right back to where we started with of like men, iron sharpening iron.
Right.
And that it's as we've talked about before, there's nothing comfortable about iron sharpening iron.
Mm-mm.
When iron sharpens up against another piece of iron, there's sparks. It's gritty. It's hardcore. I mean, it's as I like to say, our lives. There's nothing about our lives that are less than R-rated. But when our men are sharpening each other, it's hard. It's unpacking things that are explicit. It's unpacking things that we tend to hide because we don't want anybody to see it.
Right.
And I believe the beauty is that when you find a group of men, as I have found, as we both found together, that you can say, all right, so not only is this something that I've struggled with, but this is something that I'm still struggling with, and I'm not proud of it, and I want to tell the whole world, but if I don't tell you guys,
right,
then it's going to stay hidden, and it'll be something I never address.
Right. And the thing about it, that's the important thing. Communication. Men don't like to communicate, but when we communicate, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah. Well, no, hold on now. We like to communicate. We talk about sports. We talk about what happened at work and how we got this new thing. And we talk about all the wrong. I mean, no, it's not the wrong stuff. We talk about all the stuff that doesn't have any sharpening required. There's no sharpening to require to talk about some of the stuff that's comfortable. We can like in passing, hey, how's your family? Hey, what you got going on this week? Hey, when we going back to the golf course? Hey, that stuff is easy to talk about.
Right.
Hey, man, like when was the last time you talked to your family member? Hey, when was the last time you've reached out to your child?
Right.
Hey, when was the last time you struggled with this? That's the stuff that I'm going to start avoiding that, brother, if he got to ask me that all the time. And that's where a lot of men run from those deep, real conversations that create impact in our lives.
And that's why I think this right here is powerful, because it's about men telling their stories to give God his glory.
Yeah.
Because no man gets to where they at on their own.
Yeah. Okay, so let's. Ooh, I love this, and I want to kind of pivot to this way, because I think that also there's a beauty that I love about having conversations with you, is that I tend to think that because of your age and your wisdom, that you're not perfect. I've never thought you were perfect, but I've thought that you have so much to offer us younger guys that are trying to figure it out, because you've got to have had it right. Like remind me again, how long you been married?
41 years.
41 years.
Right.
When I hear 41 years, I'm like, this guy doesn't miss in marriage. Tell me how you corrected me in so many ways.
Oh man, marriage is, it requires work.
Yeah.
When I first got married, I wasn't the most, I was late to my wedding. Went out the night before drinking and everything. But, when I told my wife, that, hey, I'm going to make it up to you and everything, I meant that.
Yeah.
And then thing about marriage is 4 things that you got to have in order to make a marriage successful.
Oh, here goes. All right, get your pen and your paper out now. Get your pen and paper out now. He's about to give us a list. All right. Ready.
You got to have God first. Then you got to have
that one.
Then you got to have love. And love is like an action word, like washing dishes, cooking.
Oh, come on.
Then you got to have trust. You got to have communication. If you don't have those 4 things, you ain't going to have a marriage.
Okay, so let's sit back on the love one. I love where you was going with that, because there's a lot of people like, I love her. I love him. I love him. I love her.
Right.
As a man, what does love truly look like for a wife? Because I love how you hit on the cooking and the cleaning, but what else does that encompass though? What else does love, or even down to like, and I always, you don't have to go this direction, but I love how, if from a biblical standpoint, I always laugh and I'm like, man, how have I died for my wife this week? How have I died for her? Because I'm called to die for her. Because I'm called to love my wife like Christ loved the church. And I know how Christ loved the church. So how have I died for my wife this week? But I know that's deep for some people, because a friend of mine was like, man, you should get a shirt that says, how have you died for your church? I was like, no man will wear that.
Right.
No man will wear that. I will be the only guy wearing that shirt. That is not where we really rest our heads. So what would you say when it comes to, like, how does that look? Because I believe that we already have this. A lot of us have come from, I remember how my dad loved my mom.
Right.
And so I'm just running that one, because they stayed married without fully understanding what love looks like in front of the children and what love looks like not around the children.
Well, one of the things I did was I had to learn from experience. And one of the things I experienced, I got this book called Every Man's Marriage. And what I read in this book was about all these different women, and all the things that these women were saying was the same thing my wife was saying to me. And I thought that was funny.
Wait, was this book written by women?
No.
What were you about to say, sir?
No one was saying that.
It was a Christian book. I can't think of the author's name, but it's a Christian book called Every Man's Marriage. And the thing about it was, I noticed that these women, were saying the same thing that my wife was saying to me. And I come to realize that I needed to make changes in my life to meet her needs.
Yeah.
And everything. And so what?
And I'm just curious, did meeting her needs look like just providing and protecting? Because I'm sure you had that down pat. I mean,
I had those things down pat. But what it required for me was to listen to her. The main thing, men, we like to solve the problem and everything.
Come on.
But instead of just solving the problem, she wanted me to listen to her.
Yeah.
And so when I learned to listen to her, I learned these 3 things.
Hey, look, we in bullets now, guys. Let's keep the notes going. Come on, Pop.
I learned to say, okay, you're right. And by listening to her and staying intact with her, to understand and say those things to her, and then she said, what did I say? And being able to repeat it.
Okay. I was about to say, Pop, if you just mastered, okay, and then she'd be like, what did I say? And you ain't getting nothing else, you dead out here. Like,
I learned to master. Master was to listen to her and repeat it.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah. No, that's a good one.
And so once I learned how to master that and everything, it came along with love also meant for her. Each woman has a different love language.
Okay.
But for her, it was, she wanted me to go with her shopping.
Yeah, because you love shopping, Pop. You love it. I look, when we met, I was like, man, I ain't never met a guy who loves shopping more than you.
So what I learned was to go with her, to go shopping, meant love to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned how to
quality time,
how to spend quality time with her and everything. So, some of the things that she loved, I end up loving too. I go to the nail shop with my wife and everything. She go get her a pedicure. I go get me one too.
Tell them, Pop. Tell them. All the real men out there, you know what I'm saying? We getting pedicures.
I'm getting pedicures, man. I'm getting my feet done and everything, man.
Don't waste that time.
They need some loving too, but at the same time, I'm sitting beside her chopping it up. And you know what? She loving me. I as I love her and everything. That's love to her.
That is, yeah.
And that was me meeting her where she was at.
Yeah.
And everything. And so, so those are the things about love. Love is doing some of the things that's uncomfortable for men.
Yeah.
And everything. But to meet him where she's at.
Yeah.
And everything. And so that was important to her. And then everything. And then I learned by doing that, she started learning how to watch football games with me and
Mm.
everything. And then she started learning football and everything. So we started to compromise and everything. And it came, it came by work. Like I said, you have to work on it. Every day you got to get up and work on your marriage.
I love that. I know. I agree with you. I agree with you. More importantly, I agree with you because I've learned that just because I knew my wife when I met her and I learned her and I got to know her, I have to expect that my wife is growing just as much as I'm growing. And daily, I learn new things about myself that change things about me or change the way I address certain things that I may not have done yet. And if she thinks that she knew how I would respond to things last week,
Right.
and I'm not anymore, then I feel like it would help if she learned how I am growing just as much as I should learn how she's growing, how she's grown, how she looks at things, not to hold the certain thing. Look, last 2 months ago, you said that you wanted me to close the chip bags by putting a little thing on top of it. And now you done got this new thing and you want me to vacuum seal it. I didn't know. But it's like, I didn't know because it goes back to what you said about the whole communication thing. I hadn't stopped to ask her, like, hey, what's that little thing over there that you keep putting back in the drawer? Like, it's just learning who she is and who she's evolving to be. I think even down to like praying for my wife about certain things that she's struggling with and making room for God to answer those prayers and to be able to start to see the fruits of that as he begins to work on it. I can't do anything.
Right. You can't do anything.
I can't do anything.
You take his place.
For sure.
And everything. And you got to recognize that just as well as she does.
Yeah.
That, that you're only the man that, God called you to be. And you can't do his will.
Come on. That was a hard one because there was something in me at one time that I wanted to be. I had a savior complex where I wanted to save my wife. I wanted to save anybody I was around. And I felt like by saving them, that showed my worth.
Right.
And so if I could save my wife from different situations, if I could show my worth, whether it be in what I could build and what I could provide and what I could do to take care of her, make her feel safe and all these things, then she would see the value in me and I would be the ta-dun-ta-dun in her life. I would be that guy, not realizing that there was a lot of pressure in continuing to do that in the situations that I couldn't touch.
Right.
I couldn't do nothing. Like this one, I'm locked up, but I've been ta-dun-ta-duns all this time. So like, show up, Superman. And Superman sitting over there like with the kryptonite, like, yeah, this one's out of my hands. Like I'm gonna have to call in. I'm gonna have to make a call. And I didn't have anybody to call at that time in my life. I wasn't walking with God, so it was almost like I'm sitting out here still trying to be ta-dun-ta-dun, and I ain't got no call a friend that I could call. I ain't got nobody I didn't have a prayer line to God to say at that time. At least I didn't believe I did, and nor did I want to, because it just went back to a lot of my own past.
That's why I learned from my mistakes by reading that book, Every Man's Marriage, realizing that I didn't have anybody I could rely upon or call upon or anything like that. And then I learned that men need men.
Yeah.
To help them along the way.
Yeah.
And that's why I learned to do that. I didn't want to do it at first because I know I had made mistakes and I didn't want nobody to see my mistakes. So I wouldn't want to tell anybody anything.
So you didn't want to tell your wife, and you definitely didn't want to tell men either.
No.
Mm.
And then I had a talk with another man, and he told me, he said, look here, brother, you got a lot of power and a lot of men listen to you and everything. And you need to open up and share with them. And that's
so wait, was that a time in your life where you were talking to men, but you weren't being
vulnerable? You were just kind of like sharing from like a look down space of like, I'm talking to you guys instead of start talking down to you instead of talking with you, sitting with you
Right.
and walking with you?
Right. It was more of a point of like that and everything because, like I said, I was in the military and stuff. I know how to talk to men, but I didn't know how to be vulnerable to men. And that was the devil's workshop because he wanted me to stay silent.
Yeah.
And everything. But when I started speaking up and started sharing with men and everything and being open with men, I realized we all got the same problem. We just wasn't talking about it.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's real. I think that's how so many of us met each other and just realized like, oh shoot, like here we are. We're trying to figure this out. Nobody wants to say it's broken. We all broke. It goes back to one of my favorite stories of like the COVID bike cycling, COVID cycling I was doing. How like when you first get on a cycle and you start to like really get into that, there's parts of your body that hurt that you don't want to tell nobody about.
Right.
But the problem is all of us are hurting the same way, but nobody wants to talk about it. So we get together, we'll ride every Saturday throughout the week, and nobody wanted to say nothing. And it got to the point where I went to not the hospital, I went to my doctor, and I told my doctor, like, all right, so like, look, brother to brother, like, because I know you a safe space. I know what I tell you here in this doctor's room, you're not gonna take out of this doctor's room. But like, I'm hurting down there. I'm hurting down there. I'm hurting. All right. And he was like, oh, in that case, I've had other men tell me about it. Oh, you had other men tell you about this. Okay, tell me. He was like, yeah, what I would suggest is getting a jock strap.
Right.
And I'll never forget going back and just being like after I got my jock strap, I was just like, oh, the relief. Oh my goodness. Oh, it was like just a whole completely different bike ride. So one day I'm just in heaven at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong, cycling is already hard, but just that piece of heaven that I was experiencing was so good that I just blurted it out. I was like, hey man, I'm just curious. Any of y'all been hurting down there? And this one brother was like, wait a minute, you been hurting down there too? And then it started like all of them were dropping like dominoes. All of them were like, yeah, me too. And I was like, wait a minute, so all of y'all been hurting? How long y'all been hurting? How long has it been going on? Nobody want to say anything, huh? So none of y'all were going to say anything about hurting, huh? Until I happened to say it. Go get your jock strap, fellas. But it was the fact that men will gather weekly. We will gather regularly.
Right.
And be carrying the same pain.
Right.
And none of us want to talk about it.
Right.
Because all it takes is one person to say, hey, bro, I've been struggling with my marriage because I can't ever get this right. And all the other men be like, bro, me too. It's gotta be them, right? No, bro, it's not them. It's not them. It's us. It's us. Let me tell you what I end up having to learn because I had to address the same situation. And I'm sure we've been all thinking it's them. It's not them. It's us. But I think there's so much in when brothers can come together and say, hey, look, yeah, no, so this is a common thing amongst us. And so let's talk about it. Porn. It's a common thing amongst us that we have been just kind of like, woo, no, I ain't really a struggle or infidelity. Listen, they got meetups, they got clubs for all of this stuff. You want to find a group that's doing it, you can find one and nobody will say anything to you because we recognize that we're all kind of just doing it together. So it's our thing that we don't talk about, but let's just make it normal instead of it being this thing we got. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And the thing about it is because men don't talk, they go around carrying the pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because they carry the pain and everything, we're walking around hurt people. And hurt people will hurt people.
Yeah. More importantly, hurt people, and I've been calling this out all month of June, that hurt people don't just hurt people, but they hurt themselves
right
at the end of the day more than anything, because they don't recognize that they're hurting people, but they do recognize that they are doing the best they can to cope with their own pain, which eventually, if they don't address it, it swallows them. And I had a man today text me about a brother that we were praying for that lost another brother due to he just what he was carrying became overwhelming, and he didn't have anybody to talk to about those things. And so those things took him down.
Right.
And I hate hearing that, because I recognize that especially around just the city of Charlotte, I see so many opportunities for men to gather, so many opportunities for men to come, and we curated it to be safe enough. It's not therapy, but it's safe enough for you to just say, all right, so, allegedly I'm asking for a friend, but I know a friend who might be dealing with some stuff that's,
right,
harming him. And brothers with no shame, no like, oh, nobody's clutching their pearls or anything crazy, but brothers will say, oh yeah, me too. I used to struggle with that.
Right.
Or yeah, no, I'm listening to me. I'm in that fight every day. That's a fight for me every day. And I think that's the beauty of it, when you realize, oh, that first moment when you're like, so I'm not alone.
You're not alone. And that's where the devil's workshop is at. He works in the idleness, idle time, and loneliness.
Yeah.
And that's where he works at.
Yeah. Isolation. Yeah.
Isolation. And so when you spend time with men and you sharpen iron with men and everything, it'll help you along the way and everything. And you help each other and encourage each other.
Yeah.
So
then why is it, I'm just curious from your perspective, because I recognize that God is using you to continue to round up and love on men in a way that God has poured so much love into you that he's now saying, okay, I want you to go and love on these other men. And it's apparent.
Right.
Any man that's ever met you, that's spent time with you, has experienced that. Has it always been your plan? Was it always something you wanted to do, to meet men and continue to be a father of many men as they encounter you?
No. I had no idea that I'd be used like this and everything. I feel like, almost like Paul, I'm an instrument of being played by God to do God's will. And I'm about his business. And the thing about it is, I had no idea that I'll be doing any of the things that I'm doing now, and I never thought I'd be the man that I am today. Even I teach a Bible class in my community where I live at. And the thing about that is, I was just a prison guard. But now I'm teaching men the word of God in my own community and everything. And like I said, God said, get your eyes off yourself.
Yeah.
And when I got my eyes off myself and I became obedient to him, because obedience is worth more than silver and gold.
Come on, you can't say that enough.
And that's when I learned to be obedient to him, I'm doing the things that God called me to do.
For sure. So how is it that young men like myself or my son or other men that we gather with, how do men who are half your age sharpen you?
Oh, you sharpen me by encouraging me along the way. As I encourage you, you encourage me. When I see you do good, I feel good. And everything. When I see you pour into your son and everything, it just does something to my heart, man, because most young men don't have fathers who pour into them like this. There's a lot of young men who are missing the gap where they don't have a father because their father's incarcerated or they don't have a father. But yet God calls each one of us men to step in the gap for those who don't have it.
Yeah. I love that. And it's funny because I know some of the guys we gather with, sometimes they always question like, well, what are we providing early? Like, you think that and I'm like, no, because like, don't think that he's not experiencing some of the struggles. And most of the time you're very vocal about like things that we all struggle with.
Right.
Things that you like I love that you've never gotten
so big that you're like, oh no, I don't have that problem. No, there've been many times we done sat around that fire out back and you like, yeah, I done got in trouble again. Like, well, you done got in trouble? Yeah, man, I'm in a doghouse. Man, listen, I ain't, matter of fact, Pop, if it's cool, I can say it. I ain't ever met a man as old as you, and you ain't that old, but as old as you, that spend so much time in the doghouse. Like, I'm talking about, like, you got a permanent doghouse. Like, I just got like a trailer home. You got a permanent in-ground doghouse. Stay
my wife keeps me on my toes, man. So it's constantly, I'm constantly a work in progress with my wife and everything, because we're both retired, and so when you're both retired, it's just the two of you when there's no kids around,
right?
And so you have to learn how to work with each other, and so I stay in the doghouse and everything. But the thing about it is, I got her now that when I growl, she growls.
You know what? I think I love that, though, because what that lets me know is that there's not a mastery to this. There's not well, when I get older, I'm going to have this down sound pack, because I think that there's so much to sometimes we can get together and try to blame them. But a lot of times what happens is if we're not careful, it's less about what they're doing or what we want to say they're doing, but it's more about how are we responding? Right. What are we doing that is creating that environment? And so I love that you can always be vulnerable with us to where we're like, oh, so like, is there ever a day where we gonna master this? And it's like, I mean, it's going to be a juggling effect. Know that. You are, as you said, you're going to constantly be called to get to know not only the people that you walk with, but the person that should be the closest to you. And as I've told men, the closest to you may not always feel like the safest space, because there's a lot of men who are like, yeah, she's my wife. She ain't my safe space. But I think there should be a time where, even if it's after you sat with the fellas and you've been hiding something from your wife, that there should be a time where the fellas can encourage you to say, you should talk to her about that.
Right.
You should no, but I know how she going to react, and she going and that may be the case.
Right.
But you should talk to her about it.
Right. And
because just because she reacts that way doesn't mean that you should stay this way.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned from you.
Well, I learned from Elohim. Elohim was with Job. And he told, he was the young man, and he spoke up telling Job, things to do. And Job had to listen to him and everything. And so, you always got some Elohims around that can help you along the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, this has been good. This has been good. What you done taking from this today, man?
No, I mean,
I'm taking don't get married, right?
Yeah.
don't take that. Don't take that. Don't take that.
No. I've learned some neat things about marriage though, and stuff like that. So if I ever do get married, then I just know I just know.
Yeah. No. Well, we're gonna have to wrap this episode up. It's been good. I feel like it's crazy. I feel like it's like 3 generations of different men in this room right now. Like sitting back, just talking about like different things. We're all in different seasons of our lives, but I believe that in each season, God is seeing us through by looking at the next man in front of us. And God is I've always wanted a man that I could look at and say, okay, all right, that's what I'm shooting for. Okay, cool. He's not perfect. So I can just stop trying to be perfect, but I can continue to be sharpened by this guy. This guy can continue to check me when I say crazy things, or I want to take crazy turns. And you have, you've been there to be like, that ain't it though. Or you laughed at me when I was like, I ain't doing that. You just kind of laughed, and you ain't try to tell me like, yeah, you are, but you just like, oh, okay, well, well, we'll see. And I think about them times you used to laugh at me, and I used to be like, man, I ain't doing that. We'll see. And you knew, it's like you knew, which made me mad because it was like he knows something. But I love you, Pops. I appreciate you coming and sharing today. I appreciate you being vulnerable and talking about all the crazy wild times you had in your life. And some of them we will just keep around the fire.
Right.
Those are the ones that, but I recognize that
the beauty is that as we continue to explore our stories and you continue to like share your story, it gives us an encouragement to say, okay, all right, so there's no end point to this sharing. Like, we're going to do this for the rest of our, there's no point where I become seasoned, where I'm too seasoned or I'm too grown now to share.
Right.
So no, I appreciate you coming and sharing today. And we done already had our knock at the door to say it's dinner time. But I appreciate you coming today. I appreciate you too, son. You know what I'm saying?
Got you.
Yeah. This has been fun. This has been fun, and I appreciate all those who tuned in and listened to us. And know that I think the beauty of these conversations, as you said, is it's an opportunity just for others to sit and be like, dang, man, like I want what they got. And for us to not be like this good dude, like, yeah, you should be looking at me, but recognizing that we're all shooting for what Christ wants for us. So instead of like saying, well, I want to be like him when I get older, I think if you would ask him who he wants to be like when he gets older, he's going to give you the same answer I give you, which is who?
I want to be more like Christ.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, that is the answer. So don't shoot for us, shoot for him. Know that we are a reflection of him. When you see us, you see him. And that's who we desire to be more like every time. So appreciate y'all listening. You got anything else to add before we get out of here today? It's not like I got to ask you for Instagram or anything like that.
No, just stay true to God and stay true to yourself and watch what God will do for you.
Yeah. No, that's true. You're a living testament of it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Pop. I appreciate it. Thank you, son. I appreciate you too. But hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Appreciate you guys rocking with us as always. We appreciate those new listeners. And hey, if you love this today, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another opportunity to sit with me and another brother who comes and shares his story. But outside of that, that's all the announcements I got. So we love you guys. We'll catch you on the next episode. We'll see you soon. All right. Be blessed.
And that wraps up another episode of God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm Justin Moore, and we want to give a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in and being part of our community. Your support means the world to us, and we hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. If what you heard resonated with you, please consider subscribing or leaving a review on today's video. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to connect with us on social media at God's Glory and Men's Real Stories for updates, new episode clips, and to share your thoughts on today's episode. We love hearing from you. If this conversation happened to shed a light on past experiences of yours that may have been happy moments or maybe hurtful moments, feel free to keep the conversation going in the comments below, so as a community we can listen, pray with you, or point you to helpful resources. Join us next time for another great episode, and until then, let's give God the glory for all he's doing in our stories.